Hello and welcome to HandyCon White 2026. Guess it's been an exciting 3 days and now we are at the fag end of it and I've got some interesting news from the Far East. For those of you who've been around for a long time, you'll be very familiar with us. But for those of you who joined the family recently, my name is Sajan. I'm the founder of Fagabin Technologies and we are a handshake registry based in India. And our focus has always been to try and leverage Handshake to build something that is both usable at scale and usable to build genuine public goods. So our focus has always been on the vernacular internet to create an infrastructure for people who may not be very familiar with English. So what's the latest? Again, last year we had given a presentation where we had stated that we've been trying to pitch a certain project to the government. The government has been very supportive. And the government of India gave us a certain grant last year to help us create an MVP for a certain infrastructure that can actually help certain backward segments of our society. Now, when we say backward segments of society in India, that can be a huge number. For instance, you have a tribal population in India. That's about 150 million people, bigger than populations of some countries. Even small pockets in India who may require a certain kind of help at times can be a large number in terms of human population. So the government has various schemes that look to promote scripts that are used by this tribal population, that are used by people in the hinterland of India. And we had pitched a few projects to them. They had liked it. They had incubated us with a couple of colleges, given us certain grants, monies to develop these MVPs. And it's been 1 year. And just in time, we can now demo a few of these things for HandyCon. We've had them around for a while, but I refrained from posting it online because I thought I'll save it up for HandyCon before I actually put it out there. What are we talking about? So before I actually demo these things to you, you first need to understand a few things about India. Now, India is not just one country. Yes, politically it is one country, but there are provinces, about 30 of them. And unlike, let's say, provinces in the United States, where these are political entities, in India, these provinces are also cultural entities. Their language is different, their food is different, their music, song, movies, everything is different. In fact, let's say a province in the extreme east and a province in the extreme west could be so fundamentally different that they are more different from, let's say, the French and the English, or the Chinese or the Japanese. They have more in common than maybe these two provinces in the same country. They could be just dramatically different. So any government service in India typically caters to this ecosystem, unlike maybe what you might be used to in the western parts of the country. So let me show you what exactly a website in India, a government website in India might look like. I guess you can see my screen. So this is just one of the government websites. The nature of the service is not important. What is important that you see that as soon as you hit it, it's got 13 languages. Yeah, and these are just 13 major languages. There are other minor languages and minor scripts in India that are used by smaller population. So that 150 tribal population, none of their scripts feature here. These are all mainstream scripts. So typically all websites are like this. The moment you go down, you have a menu like this, or maybe you'll hit the main page and you'll have a drop-down menu and you can select the language. Now, this is a bit of a barrier for people who don't understand English because the primary URL and the primary website tends to be in English, and then you've got to figure your way out from there. And India has got only 10% of people, even though it's one of the largest English-speaking populations in the world. It is simply because of the population. So we have about 125, 50 million odd people who speak English, but that's less than 10%. They don't actually speak English. People who speak English the way you guys speak English and say the way I'm speaking, that's less than 3%. But they can manage in English. That's 10%. The rest have no clue. So for them, this is a barrier. A domain name, understanding a UI, and then actually getting to the actual English is difficult. So let's say if I were to click on, say, Hindi, then I would actually get there. And they're differentiated, as you can see, via URLs. So here the URL is udai.gov.in, and then here it is. So we went and pitched and told them that, hey, listen, guys, why don't we build a ecosystem in people's native tribal scripts where you'll have domain names, email IDs, payment IDs, digital identities. We have something in India called India Stack. It's essentially India's digital public infrastructure It facilitates digital identity, payments, commerce, and everything like that. And if you were to look at the network effects of it, it would pretty much rival something like a Google or a Meta in terms of the overall network effects of these things in India. Digital public infrastructure is very strong. So we said, why don't we use Handshake to create a vernacular ecosystem which will act as a naming layer on top of this entire India stack or the digital public infrastructure, as well as domain names, email IDs, digital identities, web pages, and stuff like that in these scripts. So the government was intrigued. Like I said, they had given us a grant. So we went back. Once the MVP was done, we went and showed them a demo. So while they are very happy, there are some small blockers as well. One of them may not very go down very well with the community is the extreme low hash rate of the blockchain itself. While it is great for decentralization and stuff like that, governments typically prefer stability. And the sudden drop recently was not exactly a good story. So the new architecture is there is a handshake root zone, there is a national root zone built on top of it, and then the rest of the infrastructure follows, and the resolution will happen out of that national root zone. Handshake will serve as a global settlement layer for the time being until such time its hash rate goes up and the government feels more confident putting national infrastructure on it. This was not an issue last year because we were still on an upward trajectory with respect to the hash strength, but now we see a dip and that's not gone down really well. But I hope that is a temporary blocker and we'll be able to figure our way out of it as more use cases emerge. The blockchain will become popular with miners once again. Anyway, that's something that's beyond our control. We went back, and the first thing that the government would like to see is if we can have native domain names for every government service. For instance, let's say something to do with pension, just hypothetically making it up. So, what if you had, say, pension.bha in Hindi, and it would redirect directly to the Hindi URL version of it, so the guy doesn't need to know English. Or maybe you could have pension.railways.bha in, say, another language called Tamil, and it redirects directly to the Tamil version of the URL so that you don't really need to know English. So we created a few demos. I'll show you a couple of them. And then we took it to the government, and that is something that is actually under consideration. And we've been again given a second grant to work towards a pilot. So the good news here is that at an institutional level, there is some acceptance for infrastructure that is built on a blockchain, decentralization, proof of work kind of infrastructure. So that's a breakthrough in itself, if you ask me, since I know what governments can be like, having worked with them for years. So let me give you a demo of what it looks like. So trust you can, so let me get rid of the windows that are already done. I've shown this to you. So this is typically what a website looks like. And if you were to say, click on one of these Hindi, it would look like this, where you can see the Hindi HI is the URL and the language here is all Hindi. But how do you get to these things without actually having to use English? So here is a demo. This is a Handshake site. This is Aadhaar.bha on the TLD bha minted on Handshake. And let me give you a demo on a fresh window so that you can see how it works. So we just type this. It's taking a bit of time. So we've done this not only in mainstream languages, but also in a tribal script. One of the largest tribes in India is a tribe called, there you go. So you type Aadhaar and it redirects you directly to the. So this was the clean thing that we did. We said that we will not serve content. We will not touch government content and government infrastructure, because then that becomes a very dicey issue and it goes into a deep freeze. So we said, okay, we'll keep your URLs exactly the way it is and we'll simply redirect it. So it's like a layer on top of the government infrastructure, and they liked that clean segregation, a blockchain-based infra and government infra. Both work seamlessly, but they don't touch each other. So as you can see, it's taken to the Hindi one. Let me show you how it works with a tribal script as well. Now, this is a tribal script called Olchiki. It's one of the largest tribes in India. The president of India happens to be from this tribe. You have a couple of governors or chief ministers of two provinces. They also happen to be from this tribe and is a powerful voting bloc in terms of population numbers. So they've been trying to promote this particular script for a while. So we thought, hey, why not go and say, because while there is some infrastructure still in India in Hindi and stuff, this is an absolutely neglected script, but it has people who actually use it. So he said, can we actually have government infrastructure moving in this? Let me show you how it can work. There you go. And again, it redirects. So it works. So this is something that the government has liked, and they've given us some money to create a pilot whereby we will work with two of the provinces, and all provincial or state level government websites will get mapped to different scripts. So if there are, like, say, five tribes in that state with five different scripts and their mainstream language, let's say if we were to go to a state like, say, Jharkhand, Hindi is the largely spoken language. And then there are about five to six smaller tribes. Each of them have their own scripts. So let's say if there are 100 government public utilities, they will be mapped to each of these vernacular languages so that people in those pockets can straight away type that as the domain name, and then it redirects them directly to that particular language version. So they don't really need to know English. So this is a case of genuine public goods, something that can be used at mass instantly. No need to buy a domain, no need to spend any money, no need to learn anything new, no need to install anything. Yes, you will have to install a fingertip, or we are also working on a DOH, which we are marketing as a small change in your browser settings, because it's mentally it's easier to process. Okay, I just need to go to the settings of my browser and change that, and it will work instantly. So a small change in your browser settings, and boom, the internet works in your language. That's We've piloted that in a couple of regional colleges, that approach, and that approach really works. So since we know it works, we will go with that. Yeah, that's the news here. We expect a significant amount of people to start using handshake based services. They may not know it is handshake. They may have never heard of the blockchain handshake. Probably they never will, at least for the immediate future, but they will benefit from it instantly. So that's something we are really excited about, and even the government here is excited about. Now, apart from that, let me give you a small example of how we are also using it on top of India Stack. I had given a small demo last year, but we've expanded upon that, and let me show you how that works. So once the government to government bit works out, then comes the next phase where we want to give every individual a presence on the internet. When we first demoed it, they asked us, like, what is the benefit of giving everybody a personal website? And he said, I told them it is the same as giving everybody a Facebook, Instagram, or a LinkedIn or a Twitter ID. It is your presence on the internet, except it is your presence on the internet, not on a platform that is on the internet. So people will own their identity, they will own their presence. And especially with many communities who don't have a presence on the internet at all, there is no need for re education. If they're educated directly to be told that you can have your presence on the internet, which you can control, there is no need to bring them out of a platform and then get them to adopt new ways. This would be their way. This is the Minister of Tribal Affairs of India, Sri Juvaloram. So when I demoed it to him, definitely had a very positive effect. But this would probably be phase two. They want to do the government services in languages in phase one, because that does not involve outreach or getting people to adopt something new. It can just work right out of the box. Now, this is UPI. Now, before UPI, I guess I will need to give you guys a small demo as to how it works. Wait, because if you don't know what UPI and how it works, you really won't know. Many of you may be aware of it, especially if you're from India, you will be aware of it. But if you're not, then there is a protocol in India that allows us to do a bank to bank transfer under 3 seconds. Here, I'm going to be trying to transfer, let's say, 100 rupees to my wife's bank account from my bank account. Can you see? Can you guys see the app? I guess I need to take the blur effect out. The blur is gone. So now I guess you'll be able to see. That's the app. I'm going to try and pay somebody. I will choose my wife. Let me pay $100. I get to select bank accounts. I put in my password. I click on pay, and that's it. $100 done. This system is called UPI, and usually the identity used on it is phone number. It can be a bit of a problem for ladies who may not be very interested in sharing their phone numbers, but often they end up having to do that. It also works with QR codes in shops and stuff like that. So this is pretty much how payment works in India now. I haven't, my wallet has not held cash for over 2 years now. So now we decided to build on top of this. I'll end up inadvertently exposing my phone number, but that's fine. So be it. Sergeant.b, that's my handshake name. And it maps to this. Now I could go further on, confirm and so on and so forth, but it won't work right now because then we need to tie up with a bank. Bank will provide us with an API, which will connect to the government infrastructure, and then the transaction will proceed to wherever it has to go. But as of now, this is to demo how the name can be mapped to the ID, because once that is the hard part, once that part is done, the rest just operates with the standard protocol. Again, maps to the ID. So we've also gotten this done. And this is a digital identity system. It's like the equivalent of social security number. In India, we call it Aadhaar. As you can see, you don't really need to use your social security number anymore. You can just use the handshake domain in your tribal script and your verification is done. So yeah, we presented all of this. We had done I think the ID bit I had shown last year. But anyway, that's where we are at, and we are quite hopeful and excited. Right now, I have to develop a sample virtual website in one of these scripts, old Chiki scripts, because there are no websites in that particular script. And I'll have to show a mapping of that to a government bureaucrat. And once that's done, then we expect that we should be able to land a pilot and Handshake should start rolling out to the world. So yeah, that's pretty much it from our end. I'm happy to take questions. I don't know whether I'll be able to take questions at this hour because it's 4:00 here. But if anybody has any, please do send it out to Mike, or you can DM me on Twitter and I'll be happy to respond. Thanks, everybody, once again, and vive la handshake.
The 6th Handshake Conference, HandyCon White, Building the Sovereign Internet, wouldn't be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Our platinum sponsors, Easy Domains, ShakeStation, Handshake Swap. Our gold sponsors, USwap. Our community sponsors, Handshake AU, Own the Dot, Namebase, GFAV IP Wallet. Powered by Sky Include. Thank you for believing in a decentralized future and empowering this community. Get your free ticket now at 2026.handycon.xyz